Hi everybody, Colin from the Bike Dads, and today we're taking a look at the Trailcraft Maxwell 26. This is a 120mm rear suspension bike with a 130mm fork. Let's dig into it. So there's a number of builds for this bike, starting at about $3,000, going all the way up to $5,600. Now that top build, well, that'll get you carbon hoops and wireless shifting from SRAM. And the weight varies between the builds a bit, so you're looking at about 24 to 25 pounds for the lightest builds, and they go up to just over 27 pounds for the heavier builds. So regardless of which build you get, you're getting a very lightweight trail bike in a 26-inch wheel platform. So the geometry of this bike is very trail oriented. It has a 68-degree head tube angle, so that's not relatively slack compared to a lot of the competition out there, because the intention of this bike is to pedal up to earn your descents. So you're not gonna have a floppy bike at low speeds. It's gonna be quick handling, and that's thanks to the 420mm chain stays as well. And then you also get a 74-degree seat tube angle, which puts them in a nice spot when they're climbing for those, lengthy climbs to get the descents. So Trailcraft suggests height of about 4'7" to 5'2" is ideal for a child for this bike. The Standover is 26.5 inches, so you can compare to other bikes there, which is fairly good. So for age, think about 10, maybe 9, a big 9-year-old will fit this bike, but I'd say a solid 10, an average size 10-year-old will do quite well on this bike. So when you're comparing to other bikes that might fit your kiddo, note this is a 400mm reach bike, which is pretty long. So that does help in the stability of the bike for sure. But just note that there are smaller fitting 26-inch wheel bikes available. This is gonna fit a tad bigger, so those that have a bit longer of a reach. You've got a bit of movement here as it comes with a 50mm stem, which I think might be a bit long. I think 40mm would be bang on. And I actually went down to a 32mm stem for my little guy as I was squishing him on even before the recommended height, okay? So I really should have probably waited to take him off a 24 a bit later before I put him on this bike, but I did the best I could. I squished him on there, and now you know what? He did very well on it. So we tested the original Maxwell 24-inch version, and we loved that bike. And my hope was that the 26-inch would be the exact same thing in a bit bigger of a bike. And that's essentially what it is. But once I switched my little guy from the Maxwell 24 to the 26, I really noticed a difference with the wheel size and the stability of that reach. He was able to charge much faster and much more control. But the bike, because of its weight and the geometry, it still maintains that really flickable type fun bike. I mean, if they made a 29-inch version of this bike, I'd love to try it myself. So most of the builds share quite a bit of parts, like the Stan's MK3 Crest wheel set. It's probably one of our favorite wheel sets for kids. It's in that perfect size, and the weight with the hubs they've chosen here is really low. So you have that low rotational wheel set that you can run tubeless, which makes for a real get up and go type of bike. Most of the builds also come with this 130mm travel Shox Reba fork. The Reba is a great fork because of its lightweight. It has aluminum stanchions, and it's a proven air spring and dampener as well. Now, all forks need to be serviced. I've actually had to service this fork already just because it was packing up on me a little bit. It just appeared to be the spring wasn't equalizing between the positive and negative air chamber, but it was super easy. I pulled it apart, did a lower service, silky smooth and good to go. All the builds also use the same rear shock, which is the Shox Monarch with a specific light tune for lighter weight riders. I also like the Fox DPS, which we see a lot in kids' bikes as well. But this climb switch, I like it the way it's positioned a lot better. It's hilarious I'm talking about the climb switch and the way it's positioned. But it's straight when you're in party mode, so when you're descending, it's straight. Whereas some of the DPS shock, usually it's off to the side, and the kids often hit it or they forget to turn it out, and it goes back to climb mode and stiffens up the suspension. So I really actually like the way this shock works for the kids. So the builds also come with Shimano brakes from Dior to XT on some of the higher end builds. They're a great brake for kids, the 2-piston brakes. The modulation's great. The levers are perfect for kids. Just fantastic brakes. You get a Shimano derailleur on all the builds. This one here came with a XTR, which is real flash. The cassettes range all the way up to 51 tooths, or you can get a 10 to 42 depending on which build you get. And the interesting thing is you can pick your chain ring from 26 tooth all the way up to 32. So you can really dial in the bike for where your kiddo is riding it the most. We ended up with a really nice wide-ranging cassette and a 28 tooth up front. And I can't believe what my little guy was able to climb up with this bike. He did a climb that I haven't even attempted myself because I was like, I don't think it's doable. So everything's thought out here. The cockpit's perfect. You get I-spec Shimano brake levers and dropper post compatibility. So this has the KS Lev on it, which is a fantastic seat post for kids. It works phenomenally with light weights. And you can get a carbon bar on some of the builds, which will even lighten up the build even more. And the tire spec for us is the Schwalbe Knobby Nick. And this tire actually did really well. I was surprised. The first time we've used Knobby Nicks. So it's a little heavier weight tire than say the Rocket Ron. It gives you that extra support. The sidewalls aren't as thin as the Rocket Rons, so you can run them a little bit lower pressure and still have a lot of stability when you're riding the bike. They're great. And like all Trailcrafts, you get these perfect cranks for kids. These are 152 millimeter long cranks. They're lightweight. They just change the way kids are able to ride bikes because their feet are in the right position. I love short cranks on kids' bikes. The attention to detail is second to none. You get super lightweight rotors. You get these 85 gram rotors. The contact points, like the grips and the seat, are perfect for kids. And what's really nice with the 26-inch version of the bike is that you can get a full water bottle in it. So no longer do you, mom or dad, have to carry enough water for kiddo. He or she can carry it themselves. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Trailcrafts. I mean, we've tried, like I mentioned, the 24 Maxwell, and we have also tried the 20-inch Blue Sky, the little bike. And they're just such great bikes. And there's just nothing to change outside of the stem just for fit. There really is nothing to change. You can't get it better than it is in a lot of times. So is this a bike park bike? No, it's not. This is a trail bike, and this is the riding that me and my kids do mostly, is that we climb and we descend. And you know what? This bike with my 10-year-old has opened up even more terrain now because he can climb farther now and we can reach trails we couldn't previously. While it's not a bike park specific bike, we will definitely be taking it in the bike park and riding flow trails. It'll excel on those type of trails for sure. You do notice the jump from 24 to 26 inch wheels. It's not as big of a jump from, let's say, 20 to 24, but it definitely has more rollover and you carry speed better. And I can tell under the piloting of my son, it's a super fun bike. He loves to pop and jump off everything. And the Horse Link does its job well when he's got to go up and over rocks and roots. Now, one more thing about Trailcraft. What makes them very unique is they're small and nimble, so as now, it's COVID times, parts are hard to come by. So they're doing their best to offer builds, scrounging up parts where they can find them. So where you may see bikes out of stock right now elsewhere, they'll probably be able to get you a bike. You'll probably get an upgraded part, which is amazing. Like I got an XTR derailleur when it should have came spec with an XT. You might get an upgraded fork. It's crazy what they're willing to do for you. So these bikes aren't cheap, we realize that, and they're not for the kid who's going mountain biking once a month. This is for kids who are logging serious time in the saddle, who earn their descents, and who consider mountain biking their sport. It's worth the investment. This is an asset in my opinion. You're gonna be able to sell it for 80% of the value if you take care of it. For more information on the Trailcraft Maxwell 24 and all kids bikes in general, visit www.thebikedads.com. We'll see you on the trails.